The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Jude Bellingham has started the England party over in Germany. Now, before we get going, please hit the like, the subscribe and the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow. So, if you read the media this morning, you would probably be thinking that England last night come up against San Marino. They should have beaten Serbia very, very easily. That the side were no good, that they were lackluster. Second half, poor. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the truth without all the BS. And what I am going to give you is my honest reaction to a couple of things that have been going around in the media. Now, the thing is the English media is probably one of the worst medias in the world. It is without a shadow of a doubt. And the reason I say that is you look at the historical aspects of it. So, I don't need to mention, of course, the Hillsborough disaster and how that was painted by one particular newspaper. But it's not just that. England fans are painted in such a negative light, as are all football fans in this country. Now, of course, before the game yesterday, there was reports coming out that there was trouble. However, it has now come out that England fans were nothing to do with it. They were in the locality, but were nothing to do with it. And in fact, it was 7 Serbian fans that were arrested. Now, British police have gone over to Germany to actually help manage this situation that doesn't really exist. Yes, there is going to be the odd 1 or 2 fans who are take things to extremes. That happens with all nations. That will happen with Spain. That will happen with Germany. Happen with France. It doesn't matter who. However, English fans are not like that anymore. And do you know what? This painting of English fans and fans in general of football is absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's coming from the same sources that made all those lies up about Hillsborough and other things that have happened in football in the past. At the end of the day, the reason why they do it, and let's not bullshit ourselves here, the reason why the media do this is because a good story of everybody hugging each other, really enjoying the game, you know, everybody goes home, it does not sell newspapers at all. It doesn't do anything. So that is why it's always painted up to be something worse than it actually is, which in this case looks like it's nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, coming on to the game, and of course, I'm going to comment about the media reaction to this game as well. Serbia, I knew were going to be a very, very physical, hard side to play against. I personally don't think they're the weakest in this group, and considering Denmark got a 1-1 draw against Slovenia, that shows that Serbia are a force to be reckoned with. They're big, they're tall teams. You know, only one of their players is underneath 6 foot that started yesterday. That's a matter of fact. So they were always going to be very, very physical in the air, very strong. We know their strengths. We know that they're a little bit of a dirty side, but you know, at the end of the day, football is a physical sport. You know, I quite like that, to be honest. I like that aspect of football. When you take back, you know, and look back at the teams of old, you know, when Wimbledon were in the Premier League, they were a physical side. They were a tough side. They were horrible to play against, but it served them so well. And to be fair, it's another alternative playing football. At the end of the day, if you get knocked out in a competition or get relegated from the Premier League, that is because you haven't done enough to keep yourself up, be it physical or playing beautifully. You could play beautifully and get relegated. Like I said, sexy football at the start of the season for us was not working. And I was concerned because you can still get relegated with sexy football. Thankfully, Andoni Iraola had it all as part of his master plan. But it shows my point. So England were going into this game, full of, aspiration, full of fire. You know, of course, there was a disappointment against Iceland, but we expected that to be eradicated. And so it was. And in that first 10 minutes, we were absolutely sizzling. There is no shadow of a doubt of that. And Jude Bellingham, to be honest, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here, but there was a pass that he made across the pitch, and it was just a volley. It's just a volley, but it was pinpoint perfect. That shows what a great talent we've got. We have got, for the first time in my life, a world class player. You could say we've had the likes of Lampard, Beckham, Gerrard, John Terry, all these sort of players. And yes, they were good players. Alan Shearer, Michael Owen, Sol Campbell, all very, very, very good players. However, this boy is something different. And the way he sprays the ball about, the way he knows where everything is on the pitch, the way he actually can read the game is different. The way that Serbia had to resign themselves to playing dirty against him to stop him, you know, again, initiates how good a player he really is. And I'm going to mention another player which is absolutely fantastic and had a horrible time, a torrid time in the media, you know, especially after Euro 2020, of course, which was played in 2021 because of COVID, but also, after that Iceland game, because he was on the back page of the paper, throwing a paper aeroplane. Now that player is Bukayo Saka. Now Bukayo Saka is another outstanding world class talent. Maybe he's not on Bellingham's level, but to be honest, I don't think anybody else globally is at this moment in time. And that pass across to Bellingham and that header, he knew when to arrive at the right time to put that ball past the goalkeeper. It was absolutely outstanding. Saka in that first half had his defender, on a plate. He was beating him every single time. The style he was doing it in, the crosses he was putting in. This is a man that, of course, missed that penalty against Italy in the Euro 2020 final. I do not hold that against him at all. I know there was some horrid stuff that was put about him after that game, and absolute disgraceful stuff. He's coming back and he's showing exactly what he is made of. Didn't have to do that. Didn't have to do that. But I have massive respect for Bukayo Saka and what actual style he puts out. He's a fantastic player. Another player, Declan Rice, brilliant. Defensively, he was very, very astute. He was mopping up when there was errors to be made. He was staying there when Trent was going forward. Again, excellent. I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold, again, was very, very good. On the left-hand side of midfield, it was always going to be our weakest point because we've got a makeshift left back at this point in time. Luke Shaw hopefully will come back into the fold, and sooner rather than later, because I do feel that Trippier doesn't play as well there. But I thought that, Trippier did a good job. Don't worry, I'm not saying that he set, the world light. It wasn't that. But what I do feel is that he did a good enough job. Phil Foden is another player that has come under a lot of stick, and people are comparing him to Bellingham. You can't. You can't. I think in a way they're slightly different players. Bellingham sprays the ball around. Phil Foden is very, very more attack minded. I don't think, he is quite on that level. But again, he's a talent. He's an excellent talent. And people and the press are already knocking him. Our defence, Mark Gui was excellent. And to be honest, If you took Bellingham out of the equation, Mark Guéhi would actually be my man of the match because he did everything right. In fact, John Stones was next to him. And to be honest, John Stones looked the weaker of the two central defenders. And let's be honest, John Stones has got so much more experience. It's not saying that John Stones is a bad player. It's just Mark Guéhi really, really, really outperformed himself. Jordan Pickford, excellent in goal, and of course, you can't, talk about an England squad without Kyle Walker, and I think he was very, very dependable. You know what you're getting with Kyle. But the media today, of course, are hyping on the pressure. And why are they hyping on the pressure? Because a great, strong England performance, a 1-0, doesn't sell the newspapers. It doesn't get people talking. A poor performance in the second half does. And personally, I'm going to be honest here. I don't think it was a poor performance at all in the second half. I think we did what we needed to do. Serbia and Dragon, I love the name, the Serbian manager's name. He actually changed the whole style of their team. Bukayo Saka wasn't getting as much luck because players were getting closer to him. His defender, his man, was getting closer to him and was making it more awkward for him to actually turn and break away. Still did it on a couple of occasions. I think Jared Bowen, when he come on, because Saka was, it was getting a bit tough. It was getting a bit tough. Jared Bowen did, present something a little bit different on that right hand side. And I think, again, you've got to give Gareth Southgate a lot of credit. Conor Gallagher, who, I'm not the world's greatest fan of, I thought he did very, very well. And it was the right substitution. Again, you know, a good move by Gareth Southgate. Um, Personally, I think that Serbia were outstanding in that second half. And let's give Serbia some credit rather than turning round and saying, if we play like that in the second half, we're not going to win this at all. I personally think it's not how you start a competition, it's how you end it. That's how these tournaments are won. Let's take it back, to when we beat Panama in Russia. We absolutely wiped the floor off them. To be honest, Panama aren't a particularly very good side. We know that. But we looked outstanding that day. We didn't win that competition. The thing is I think this is going to build up and build up and build up, and we're going to get better and better and better. But I tell you what, we won't do if the fucking media keep moaning and whinging and going on about these players who have done so well. Jude Bellingham was absolutely outstanding. It doesn't mean that he can give 100%, a 10 out of 10 performance every game. And you can't say that he's always going to be at 100% fitness for every single game in this tournament. As the games go on, it's going to be Gareth Southgate is going to have to make those decisions like he did yesterday. Because at the end of the day, he wants to protect his best assets. But of course, the media go on and on and on and on and on and say that we weren't good enough in that second half. That 1-0. What did we expect to fucking beat Serbia by? Was we expecting a 7-0 win against them? Did we expect to thrash them like we would San Marino or Gibraltar? Didn't at all. I thought they were going to be really tough, really awkward, really. I was worried after we was beaten by Iceland. I really was, because I thought at the end of the day, if we get beat by Iceland, and that wasn't a particularly good performance, but you can't, and as everybody said, you can't read too much into friendlies. You know, I was really concerned for this game because of the physicality, the height. You got Mitrovic up front, which is a pain in the arse to play against. And let's be honest, he did try and win a penalty, and it wasn't a penalty, and he just dived. That's what he does. Um, I personally think that we are, a very, very good side. And I do have faith now in Gareth Southgate. In fact, I'm probably saying the polar opposite to what a lot of other people were saying. You saw Mark Goldbridge yesterday, and he was going on, and I've said this before, that against Italy in the final, that we sat back too deep. And I guess we did go a little bit deeper yesterday. We did. But it was the right move to make because Serbia were coming into that game. The thing is, Mark, you have to judge each game on its own credentials. Against Italy, personally, I think you're in the right. I think we should have just kept going for the juggler of Italy, should have just kept going for them. In this game, I think that we did the right thing. I think I think you're completely wrong. And I think Gareth Southgate has got it spot on. Now, by the end of this tournament, if there's games where we should be winning 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0, or could have put ourselves out of space, and then he goes defensive, then that's another story altogether. But in this game, personally, I think because of the height, we shut up shop, we kept it tighter. Serbia didn't really get much of an opportunity on goal. And that was to credit. To be fair, towards the end, that was a fantastic save by Jordan Pickford, but they didn't really get any clear cut chances. And that was a full credit to a defence which a lot of people were saying before this tournament kicked off was the weakest we'd had in years. And that is my honest opinion. The media, and I'm speaking to the media now, need to back off this team. If we want to win something, or if we want a competition, to come back home, and I don't mean the next Euros because we've got that, but I mean a World Cup. If we want a World Cup, to be played in this country, firstly, you can't keep banging on about fans and making out it's England fans when it bloody clearly isn't. I know my brothers were in France a couple of years back in Marseille, and to be honest, that was terrible with the Russian fans. And then, because it's all painted that it's England fans in the media, that's why we're not getting tournaments. We're not getting the World Cup over here because we've got the stadium to host it tomorrow. But the other thing is we can't put pressure on this side. We've just got to let them do their thing. And the media going, oh, we expect more, we expect more. Oh, we might beat Denmark on Thursday and we might beat them 2-1. And they'll go, it's not quite good enough. Yeah, we're not going to win the tournament like that. Fuck off. Just fuck off. At the end of the day, a tournament is not one at the start. There is going to be games. Every team in this tournament deserve to be there. Look at Albania, what they did with Italy. Albania are a good side. From what I saw, they should have got a point from that game. Serbia are a good side. They've not just got there because they've been given a place. And the same goes for Denmark and Slovenia and whoever else we fucking come up against in this tournament. But the media are going, oh, it's not quite good enough. Bellingham outshone everybody. There is going to be players who probably didn't do as well. But at the same time, there's also going to be, players who are going to rise to the plate when it matters later on in this tournament. Harry Kane wasn't given much chance. They managed him out of the game. Serbia managed him out of the game very, very well. That is my honest opinion. I think that England deserves so much credit for that result against what is an awkward team. Let me know what you think. Do you think I'm talking rubbish? Do you think the media have got every right to slag off this England team after a 1-0 win against the Serbians? You let me know, and I'll look forward to reading them. Until next one, up the Cherries, up England, and please hit the like and the subscribe button. It really does mean a lot to us. Thank you for joining us.
The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.